an inventory of my traits. That's what we're going to talk about. Next week, you'll have these as words that you need to know. So the terms on here, traits. First and foremost, a trait is something that is observable. So a trait is something that we can see. It's considered a characteristic which is passed down from a parent to a child. Okay, pretty simple. You see it though. Okay, so if you can't see it, we don't necessarily call it a trait. So sometimes I find students wanting to utilize the word trait when it's not appropriate. So you have to see it. Okay, physically there. Clap your hands right now. You can physically feel it. Okay, you feel it. It's physically there. Okay, and then the other thing I'm going to point out is as an individual, there's many traits. We're not going through all of them. We're just going through a very small portion. It's really important for you guys to know that heritability, or the ability to pass on a trait, is something that scientists really run a lot of very difficult formulas and algorithms to figure out if it actually is heritable, meaning is it something that actually gets passed on or not. You know, red hair. A lot of people talk about red hair and how it's passed on and it's maybe kind of being weeded out. How many of you have ever heard that statement that by 2050 we'll no longer have any redheads left? Okay, so maybe look up some statistics on that. But they run those numbers based on how many people have it, how frequently it's passed on, and then will it exist? Okay. Okay, so when we talk about your guys' traits, we're talking about the way that they make you unique. Okay, so it's not, oh, this trait is better than the other trait. Oh, this one is the preferred trait. It's that these traits exist. Some of us have them, some of us don't. Okay, and some are not. The first one we're going to look at is detached earlobes. So this is one that students tend to have a difficult time identifying. So if you need to pull up your camera and really look at yourself or your buddy that you just paired up with, that would work perfectly fine. Detached is referring to the fact that your earlobe, if it's detached, is got this little loop on the end of it as opposed to straight up. Okay, so go ahead, take a look at your ears. Do you have detached earlobes or not? Our next trait is the ability to roll your tongue or not. So I think this one's kind of self-explanatory. You either can roll your tongue, and some people can make different shapes with their tongue, or you can't. Can you roll your tongue? Our next one is dimpled cheeks. Usually this will show up when you smile. My son has one dimple, like on one side, okay, with just one single dimple. So do you have dimpled cheeks? Look at Haley over there. She's got dimples, okay? So dimples or not. So an important factor to keep in mind, it's not the crease. So the crease of your mouth would be like right here when you smile. A dimple is actually in the middle of your cheek. So that's really important to designate the difference between those two, because sometimes students look at themselves and are like, oh yeah, I got dimples right there. No, if you smile, do you have a dimple in your cheek? All right, this one's simple. Right-handed or left-handed? Which are you? Freckles. Do you have freckles or not? Now, I'm not talking about, okay, you've been in the sun and you have one freckle. I'm talking about the predominance of several freckles you've had in pretty much your whole life. Okay? Over time, a lot of us gain freckles, but that's a little different than the natural freckles that you might be born with. Okay? This is another one that tricks middle schoolers. Naturally curly hair. Do you have naturally curly hair or not? Now, my hair is curly. Do I force it into be straight every day? Absolutely. Or most days, I should say. But is it naturally curly or have a wave to it? Or is it just completely straight? Like in this picture, we know this girl's straightening her hair. Nobody's hair is well, some people's hair is naturally that straight, but I bet that's straightened. So what is your hair like? Is it naturally curly or not? You're putting yes, it's curly, or no, it's not curly. Another tough one, cleft chin or not. So my daughter has a cleft chin. It's actually predominant in my husband's family all the way through the generations. My son has a cleft chin. So a cleft chin would be that little line in the middle of your chin. And sometimes they're really mild and small, but sometimes they're really predominant. So do you have a cleft chin? How many of you have allergies? Okay, so a lot of us, and actually I think an allergist said this once, most people, aka 100% of people have allergies and they just don't know it, but think about, when springtime comes around, how many of you all of a sudden feel that nose running? That's probably a sign you have allergies. How many of you take allergy shots or have allergy medication? If you're on allergy medication, this is definitely a yes for you. Some of you may not know for sure if you have allergies or not, and that's okay. I didn't actually have allergies until I was about 24 years old. So it's something that came on later in life for me than as opposed to your guys' age. So looking down at your hands after you've put them together, you're going to look and see, is your left thumb over the top of your right, or is your right thumb over the top of your left? Now this one you kind of have to look at. So this is going to be, can you see the colors red and green, or are you colorblind? When you look at the image up here in the top left, if you can see red and green in that image, meaning you can see the number in the middle, then you can see the colors red and green. If you need to walk up here in a second, you are welcome to do that. But I want you to look at it for a little bit. Can you really see the number in two different colors in this top image? Next one you're marking is if you have straight hair or not. So obviously if you mark that you have curly hair, then you'd be putting no for straight hair. Okay, so back on this one, sorry, I went past this. This isn't straight hair. This is a straight hairline, okay? So what we're looking at, does your hair go straight across or does it peak down? Okay, so that's what you're looking for. And that's the last one on this slide, but I'm going to give you all a piece of paper. It's called PTC paper, okay? I'm not going to pronounce the long name. When you get this piece of paper, you're going to hold on to it, and you're not going to say a word. When I say lick the paper, then you're going to lick it. If you taste something, and you'll know if you taste it, you're going to mark down, yes, you can taste PTC. If you don't taste anything and it just tastes like paper, okay? I mean, if you need to taste paper real quick to know what you're comparing it to, feel free to lick some paper. But if you just taste paper, then you're going to put no, you cannot taste PTC, okay? And you can decline to participate in this part if you want, but they're sealed off, they're safe. We've done this every year. It's not anything to be scared of. Elliot's looking at me with these eyes like, oh, what are you doing to me?